Hello and welcome to Brodual. This time we have the Path of Sorcery. This is a magical perk overhaul that lets you become a true master of the arcane. Unlike most other perk overhauls, this one only affects the magical trees, and because of that it's designed to work alongside most other complete perk overhauls. The mod sticks to the core vanilla playstyles, and then any new features are designed to flesh those out, instead of adding entirely new ones that stride too far from vanilla. For an example, let's start with the illusion tree. In other perk overhauls you probably expect entirely new spells and powers, like Dream Magic in Ordinator or Phantom Armies in Percus Maximus. However, the Path of Sorcery takes the core vanilla illusion spells, Calm, Fear, Frenzy and Courage, and then makes them more useful. In vanilla it is all about making them work on higher leveled enemies, but now they'll receive actual buffs with each perk. Targets with Courage will receive increased regen and damage as they attack with all of their might. Calm targets will ignore any crimes you commit, and a more experienced mage can lure them away as a follower for a short amount of time. However, when they snap out of it, they could become hostile if they work out it was you who lured them away. Frenzied targets will go into a true rage, and with the right perks you can use their own emotions to fuel their power, giving them increased damage against their own race and faction members. Eventually their madness will spread like wildfire, sending everyone around them into a mad rage. And finally, fear spells can potentially paralyze targets with fear, or if they're low on health the shock could instantly kill them. So these 4 core features do a whole lot more, but it doesn't stop there. The mod adds 2 extra illusion magic styles to join them, telepathy and shadow magic. Early on, telepathy lets you see through the eyes of another, but eventually you'll also be able to take limited control over their actions for a short time. Shadow magic on the other hand lets you activate targets to make their very own shadow attack them, while you stay hidden in the shadows, great for stealth players. And then finally, to tie it all together, the master perk lets you specialise in one of the 6 types of illusion magic, giving powerful buffs to the one you choose. So as you can see, illusion is still very similar to vanilla, but there's also much more to it. If we jump straight into destruction, you'll notice similar changes. The tree still very much sticks to the 3 elemental paths, fire, frost and shock. However, the new perks take it into the extreme, making you feel like a true master of the elements. Fire damage will start by burning targets and then making them flee in panic, but later on you can create wildfires that spread from target to target. Frost magic will start by draining stamina and potentially even paralysing targets, but eventually you'll freeze their very soul into an angry ice wraith that'll attack your enemies. And finally, shock magic is all about burst damage and absorption. You can use it to steal magicka and even have a small chance to deal huge damage. So there's a lot more to each element already, but you can take it even further by unlocking new spell chaining perks. These let you mix and match the elements to receive more powerful effects. For example, hitting a target with fire and then shock causes a magical explosion, whereas fire then ice causes brittle, lowering armour. This is similar to the spell chaining mod we featured a while back, but without all of the scripting. The tree also comes with some much needed buffs to runes. They let you cast them from much further away and they'll deal more damage if they hit a target not in combat. We're not entirely sure if that's enough to make runes useful, but they might be a nice magical addition to a stealthy thief. And finally, the destruction master perk lets you specialise in one of the 3 elements. Each specialisation comes with a new passive that uses your chosen element to save you when you're close to death. A pyromancer will become the Phoenix, putting you in a cloak of flames and rapidly restoring your health when low. A cryomancer will become Arctis Tor, sealing your body in magical ice that'll keep you protected and also reflect any incoming damage back at your enemies. And finally, the electromancer will become the Stormlord, making your body emit vast amount of electricity, shocking any nearby targets and giving you a small chance to insta-kill. So there's some really creative buffs and new features that we haven't really seen before in a destruction perk overhaul. Conjuration is one of our favourite new trees. Each element of Conjuration now has more depth, from bound weapons to reanimation. Bound weapons will now scale better than ever. You'll be able to use them to absorb attributes, banish Daedra creatures, and send out a blast of arcane energy during a power attack. Your weapon can even protect you by turning your own body ethereal just before you're hit. So with these new abilities, and thanks to the new scaling, bound weapons are more viable as you head into the late game. Your summons are also a bit stronger, but they can now become even more powerful if you sacrifice your own health and magicka to fuel them. Your Atronachs will also now eventually become more powerful and learn new magical abilities late into the tree. The new reanimation perks also generally make them stronger. Depending on the freshness of the corpse you reanimated, they'll last longer too. They'll also have the ability to move and attack faster, and eventually start to deal disease damage. Alongside reanimation is a new skeleton building system. This lets you harvest physical skeleton parts, like bones, skulls and more, to create your own skeletal abilities. There's several different types to build, from standard soldiers to mages with spells. A more experienced conjurer will even be able to craft rideable skeletal horses, a more practical ally that's not just for combat. You'll also learn to make bone walkers, which are more powerful versions of the standard skeletons. But the ultimate skeletal ally has to be the bone dragon. What's great is that the type of ingredients used can lead to different variations of skeleton, even for bone dragons. For example, the types of spells they use or the shouts for the dragon depend on the type of salt used when crafting. It's a great system, and although not entirely unique in concept, it's been executed very well. Jumping into Alteration, it's still very much that ambiguous magical tree that doesn't offer a whole lot by itself, but when mixed with another tree, it can be extremely useful. There's a good mix of permanent choice and toggle perks throughout the tree. For example, you can choose a magical school, making all spells from that school permanently cost less. The toggle perks let you sacrifice your stamina for some extra magicka at will, or you can toggle on blood magic, sacrificing your own health over time for increased potency. A confident Alteration mage will gain a couple of unique abilities. One lets you transform your own flesh to gain a permanent ability, either water breathing, night vision or feather falling. You'll also gain the ability to once a day transform an NPC's flesh into gold, a devastatingly greedy way to end someone's life. And finally, the master perk lets you infuse the next spell you cast into your very soul, transforming it into a lesser power that you can cast at no cost but on a 10-second cooldown. So if you choose wisely, it can become an extremely powerful addition to your arsenal. Onto enchanting, we have an interesting take on the tree. Usually what you'd see here is some sort of stave or scroll perks. However, the Path of Sorcery focuses almost entirely on buffing the process of enchanting, or even the enchantments themselves. So for example, you can learn a ritual that makes items enchanted during the Witcher hour 20% more powerful, or 40% more powerful during a full moon. A couple of perks will even buff enchantments on certain types of armour. There's also a selection of perks that buff enchantments revolving around elements, skills, and those that affect health, magicka or stamina. So again, it's similar to vanilla, but the mod takes it a step further. Forbidden Knowledge lets you learn any unique enchantments, including those from Daedric or Aedric artifacts, basically letting you manipulate any enchantment in the game. However, you might want to choose Draconic Infusion, which lets you use a dragon soul to enchant pieces of gear using 2 new dragon enchantments. These are extremely powerful late game enchantments, with particular focus on fighting dragons. So altogether, leveling up your enchant tree is now more useful than ever, and there's now a real difference between a novice and master enchanter. And finally we come to Restoration. Several brand new perks offer some much needed buffs to support magic, giving you the ability to buff your allies in many ways simply by healing them. With the right perks, your healing magic will buff their resistances, restore stamina, and you can eventually create a life link between you and an ally. When your life is linked with another, whenever they take damage, your own stamina will be drained to heal their HP. Healing magic can now also create an overflow of health once you heal past your max HP. To further support your allies, you can now build an aura. At first this will simply boost the regen of nearby allies, but eventually you'll buff their damage and even have the chance to automatically save an ally from a fatal blow. The master perk then expands on this by making your aura almost definitely save a single ally from a fatal blow every 60 seconds in combat. The rest of the tree revolves around holy magic. One thing we haven't really seen before is perks that include the divines and praying. With these new perks you can buff your chosen divine's favour, magnifying its effects. You can also leave an offering at a patron's shrine before praying to further increase its power. Your patrons can then help you in other ways, like summoning a guardian to protect you. Later into the tree you might choose to betray the divines and worship Daedra. You can use this perk to receive special blessings from Daedric princes, but doing so will upset the divines. The other side of holy magic is buffs to sun damage. You can make your weapon strikes cause holy damage to the undead, and eventually have your holy magic turn the undead into ash when they're low on health. We've never really seen this take on Restoration before, and it goes great alongside a paladin or holy knight playthrough. So that's it for all of the trees. However, it's also worth mentioning that the mod also tweaks other areas of magic. One is that dual wielding is now more viable, with dramatically decreased cost and potency. On top of that, the mod fixes some bugs from vanilla, particularly those that affect your summons or reanimations. For example, they'll now follow you through load doors and stay assigned to you when you reload the game. All in all, the Path of Sorcery offers a lot that the other perk overhauls don't, but it doesn't stray too far from what we all know in vanilla. Maybe this won't be enough of a difference for some people, but if you like the idea of the vanilla magic system but you feel it's somewhat lacking, then the Path of Sorcery is the mod for you. For compatibility alongside Ordinator and Percus Maximus, you should just be able to load it in after them and it'll be fine. For other overhauls, be sure to check out the mod page. And as always, be sure to leave me thoughts on any mod you enjoy. If you're interested in some cheap games, then check out g2a.com, and thanks for watching.